NoMix installation video by Glenn Manos. Why do you have problems controlling water temperature? Simply, the valve becomes worn. Cold water crosses to the hot water side. Hot water crosses to the cold water side. You have two solutions. Replace the faucet or use the NoMix replacement cartridge. Use the NoMix replacement cartridge. It's a 15-minute repair and an easy 8-step process. The 8-step process is: remove the old handle.
First procedure is to remove all the trim from the valve. This handle will be discarded and not be reused. The NoMix valve cartridge has a different working mechanism.
Turn off the water.
After the trim is removed, you need to turn off the water to the valves, which there are some integral stops concealed in the wall. If the valve does not come with these stops, you must turn the building supply off outside the building.
Remove the old cartridge.
Then you need to remove the outer escutcheon, and this is done with this wrench right here. You need to be sure and inspect the inside of the escutcheon. Make sure it has the friction rings and a plastic washer for spacing. Then you remove the valve cartridge. This is the old existing mix-it valve cartridge that needs to be discarded.
Deburr the valve assembly.
Next procedure is to, there's an inner edge right here. Maybe we'll pan down to it. This is the most important part about the valve that needs to be removed. It's a sharp edge, and this is a reaming tool that cuts that edge off. And you can feel how sharp it is with your finger. So you just take this cutting tool like this. And as you see, that leaves a good smooth beveled edge for the insertion of the cartridge.
But you need to make sure and check it with your finger.
Make sure and check it with your finger that there's no sharp burrs on it.
Okay.
The next procedure is to take a 3/4 inch fitting brush, insert it into the valve, twist it. That helps to knock some of the sharp edges off the inside of the valve and also clear out any old rock hard deposits of grease.
Flush with water and identify the hot water side.
The next procedure is to open the valve and determine which side is hot water and which side is cold water, because plumbers do pipe these in backwards. Turn the water on, it flushes the debris out of the valve. You also determine that you get hot water on this side. When it's determined that the hot is on the left, the next procedure is to install the valve with the set screw in an up position.
Now, Glenn, you said that some plumbers pipe them in backwards. That sounds kind of dumb to me. I don't know how that could happen. When would it happen?
That's typical when the bathrooms are back to back, like there's another bathroom on the other side of the wall. The plumber will run one pipe straight across, and that on the other side of the wall will make that valve where the hot's on the right.
So it's really not done wrong. It's just a cheaper way of putting in a job, apparently.
Cheaper way of doing the job. And if the hot is on the right side, this valve goes with this set screw in a down position, and you insert it in like that.
Okay, now what happens if I put it in and I've got it backwards?
If you have it backwards, if you have it in like this and it's already installed.
So it's already, can you turn it?
No, you do not want to turn it.
Okay.
What you do, you can take the set screw out, take the stainless steel and rotate it 180 degrees, put the stainless steel screw in this tab down here. That's what it's designed for, to be able to convert it.
Okay, so pull that thing out. Let's see what that little half cam thing looks like. Can you do that?
That's a stop. This screw stops the valve from coming out and also stops it from twisting from hot to cold. And in a down position, it works. It's just like this right here. But the way it converts it'll put the cold water on the right and the hot on the left where it's supposed to be.
Okay.
So it's a convertible valve, but it's done after it's installed. You can convert it once you determine that you got the water hooked up on the wrong side. The other thing too, there's two rings that come on this valve, a spacer ring and a stop ring. The spacer ring is to give this valve adjustment, and on 90% of the jobs, you do not need to worry about that spacer ring.
The actual adjustment is installing it without the spacer ring. The spacer ring sets the cartridge so deep into the valve assembly. But if you need it tighter, or if you have like a leaky faucet, then you can remove the spacer ring and it'll pull that valve up in there inside the valve assembly another fraction of an inch.
Right. This is the standard way it goes in. If you find you have a small drip, once it's installed, take the washers off, reverse the washers, put the lock washer back on first.
Well, you don't have to have that washer anymore, though, right?
No, you don't.
You can get rid of it.
You can just get rid of it.
Okay.
That lets this valve draw tighter down against the seat of the valve. And then the valves wear differently.
Now, why would we not just do that every time that way?
Because there's only about 10% of valves that need to be done like that.
Okay.
The valves wear differently. On each body of the valve wears different, and some wear deeper in the bottom, in the seat area than others. And about 10% of them, you need to reverse these washers or take this washer off and just install that washer. I generally put this washer on here because this plastic spacer is worn out from many years of usage. And this just gives it a little bit more space to compress tight against the valve.
Okay, so you're recommending going ahead and leave that second washer on there?
Yeah, because of the old state that this discussion is in and the plastic spacer inside of it.
Okay.
So I recommend just reversing it. Therefore, you notice the slip ring cannot slide down on the valve. It actually fits behind it. But in this case, we want to install it like most valves are required, where it's just after the spacer in here. That'll hold the valve out a little ways.
Insert the new NoMix cartridge.
Okay, okay, now I guess we're about ready to insert this thing. How much grease do we put on? Does it make any difference on that? The grease is only for lubricant?
Grease is just a lubricant to insert the valve. It doesn't need the grease to operate.
Okay.
And the grease is, you put a generous amount on the rubber itself, clean her off, and you put it inside the valve. That allows the grease to be pushed ahead of the valve cartridge as it puts in. To get the valve cartridge started, so we know the hot's on the left, we want to put the valve with the set screw in the up position, and we'll get it started like that.
Now do you twist the valve as you push it in?
No, you're not twisted, because the inside of the valve, the old valve body, the inside of it is all corroded and eaten up, and you do not want to risk tearing the gasket by twisting it.
Okay, can you twist the gasket on the shaft too? I mean, is that a possibility that could happen and get it out of alignment?
Yes.
Because you got those holes that have to be lined up?
That could happen, because the inside of the valve, it is such a tight area, it compresses this gasket against it, that you can damage it by turning it.
So the whole key is to push it in straight without turning it at all.
Right, and it's best to use channel locks and get a firm grip on the flat portion, and then just push in a straight position all the way in until these washer rings come up flush with the edge of the valve. That tells you that it's inserted all the way. The other procedure that you may want to do before installing the escutcheon again is to clean the threads. You make sure the threads are clean and use a fitting brush, And also you can clean the threads in here for easy insertion. Making sure that you don't lose any of the parts out of this discussion. The little friction ring needs to go back in there. Then the next procedure is to install the discussion on the valve, cartridge, being careful not to let this brass twist. The kit comes with two tools. This tool here is to hold the valve stationary while you tighten the discussion. You want to tighten the valve very tight, holding the brass perfectly straight. And make sure you cannot twist this valve with this right here. If you twist it, it's not tight enough. Okay, now that's very tight. You can't twist that valve. That holds it in place. Now, once it's in this stage, you can check you can turn the water back on. Get the damn thing to hit the screw holes. Turn the water back on to the valve. This dripping stage may be another procedure we do at the end to determine if it starts to drip. You open the waterways back up on the hot and cold. You can check it again to make sure that you have installed the water where it seems to be. With the hot on the left, you can pull it out like this. That turns the water on. If that's hot water, that's hot. If for some reason you got it mixed up and found out that it's backwards, take the set screw out from here. You don't have to turn the water off. Rotate the stainless steel 180 degrees and put the stainless steel screw in the bottom of it. And you're all fixed. Then you
reinstall the handle.
Put the trim back on the valve. You notice this handle does not go back on. This is the handle I told you earlier that is discarded and you don't use it anymore. You just use the single handle, like this handle here. It fits back on the end of this valve. To operate the valve, you pull it out to turn it on, turn it left for hot, right for cold. That's the way the valve works. You push it in to turn it off.
And finally, hang the customer information sheet.
And when you're completely done with the installation, there's a notice that tells the tenant how to operate the valve that we install on the valve itself, written in English and Spanish for instructions on for the tenant to operate the valve.
You do need to take special care in making sure to deburr the old valve assembly, identifying the hot water side. Don't twist the cartridge. Don't remove the cartridge once it's installed. NoMix, the best solution. It's a 15-minute repair. This training video is available. You save money on your utility bills. You end up with consistent water temperature and technical support.